packet than what came in electronic?
Should not be. Here's the rest.
Okay.
Oh, there.
I have it
Okay.
on all set.
Is there, excuse me, is there anything different in here than what came electronically on Friday? Okay. Are there any, is there any discussion
Christian Taboo, if you're in the building,
on
please
the
contact
statement
the
of
office.
principles?
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, at this point, I'm not prepared to vote item number 8. You know, I recall that last year we had a couple of policies that the board first saw in March. And this particular policy was provided to us late Friday. And I really don't feel like I've had enough time to...
We voted this.
Oh, I understand,
Go
but,
Monday.
I understand, but not as far as the operations go. And, I mean, there are a lot of questions that still remain. In fact, the email that we have here, Ms. Harper notes, time of day programming is not part of customary operational practice. Several weeks to develop a model and test it. You know, we're already in this process of the consensus, working with the Consensus Building Institute and working with the neighbors to try to come up with solutions. And it seems to me that to try to tinker with some short-term operations between now and July 1, when for at least a few weeks during that period of time, it's not even going to work because Vestas has to come up with a working model to do this. And in the meantime, it's creating a lot of angst in the neighborhood, and I think it's not a good faith effort on our part to push this process. I would much rather see things play out the way we said they would with the Consensus Building Institute and with the studies, and see that happen, especially since, as was noted last week, financially we're fine through the end of this fiscal year, which brings us to July 1. So that's my 2 cents.
I think, I'm not sure that maybe to July 1, but we're not financially feasible to November, which is the next town meeting when we can appropriate funds. So I'm not sure how you would like to amend this, because this was the amended version from last Monday, based on a suggestion by Kevin Murphy.
Number 8 was suggested but never voted on. And again, this is only dealing with short-term operations for fiscal 13, until June 30, excuse me, until, let me rephrase, in the immediate term is for number 8, from tomorrow through June 30. And we were told last week that we have enough, that the fiscal issues associated with the turbine are fine, if you will, for lack of a better term at this point, until June 30. And then, obviously, as of July 1, we need to have a plan, but we have several months' time between now and then, and I'm not inclined to rush the process. And, again, that's my 2 cents.
I respect that. I just wish that you had said this maybe a day ago or 2 days ago. I mean, this is the same language that we talked about last Monday. And, you know, we're 10 minutes away from town meeting, so it makes it very, very difficult to change this. Melissa?
I'm wondering, you say that we got this a week ago and you're not ready to make a decision, but yet a few months ago, or about a year ago, we made a very snap decision at 11:30 one evening to curtail Wing 1. Perhaps we should return to operations of Wing 1 up to that curtailment and then just shut the 2 of them down at night.
Or it can act as it pleases. I put my 2 cents in.
Kevin?
Brent, I
to feel, the anxiety from the folks who live there, to come up with a long-term solution. I am a realist, though, in the understanding that if we don't find a solution, and that solution includes a monetary solution for the budget by July 1, we'll be backed into a corner to make some major cuts, and that could be positions in this community. Hindsight being 20/20, we might have been better served having run the turbines a little bit more over the winter time, when the effects would not have been as great on the perceived neighbors in the community. And the bottom line is that no one of us knows what's going to happen between now and the end of this fiscal year. We do know that the money will run out shortly to make the payments, and the money will have to come from somewhere. Where are we going to get that money would be that we would go back into the fiscal 13 budget and have to make some cuts to be able to pay these shortfalls. I think that I would much prefer if we had some opportunity to make some revenue on these between now and when in fact folks' windows are opening and when they're truly outside, to be able to build some additional revenues, to be able to have the flexibility come the summertime for us to be able to move forward. Even if we build consensus, the day after we build consensus, whatever we build will not happen. It will take time to implement whatever it might be. And that couldn't possibly include going back to town meeting, going to the state, going to the local folks. I mean, there are a multitude of possibilities. None of us can look at a crystal ball and see which one we will all decide on to build consensus. But this will give us a little bit of breathing room between now and June the 30th. It is not a perfect solution, and I don't think there is a perfect solution that will fit everybody. I know it would be a perfect solution for those affected in those neighborhoods, but it wouldn't be a perfect solution for the people that we might end up laying off in this community. So it's a balancing act, and I think that we owe it to as many folks as we can to try to walk the line and make a decision. I think if we tell them one thing tonight and do something different, we'll in fact be disingenuous. I think we need to make and put a statement out there that we're working to build consensus, that this is part of the scenario that we can at least build some revenues, keep into account that when we switch to the on-off period of 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., we're recognizing that there is an opportunity that until we know and everyone knows what they know, meaning the neighbors there, that they'll have some time to sleep and be able to, sleep deprivation is the word that keeps coming up. So at least we'll be able to give some checks and balances. That's my point, and I hope that we could have built some kind of consensus to this point, and then maybe move forward by July 1 and build consensus as we further go down the road. We're going to take it baby steps. How are we going to get from point A to point B? We've got to figure those things out, and I think this is a good first step.
Melissa?
If I may point out also, Brent, that the last two sentences of the suggestion, alternate strategies may develop upon review, et cetera, et cetera. These turbines may be shut down or operated to full capacity periodically as needed for testing, prepared scheduled maintenance. But there are alternate strategies. We are still working on moving forward. And and I know that we've been barraged by emails this week, but if you read them all closely, you'd see that, at least from the 50 or so that I received, one was from Falmouth. The majority of them were from Ontario, Dartmouth, Fairhaven, Brimfield, Plymouth. It's nice to see that the Andersons have some supporters, but I don't seem to recall the 22 other households barraging us with information. And people know that we're moving forward with this. The townspeople, the 22,000 households in town realize that we need to move forward with this. And you know, we're going to do our best,
I think too, the importance of this is so, we're asking town meeting to indefinitely postpone the shutdown of both turbines. And so what we're offering here is an interim measure. So as both Kevin and Melissa have said, that will take us to June 30th. And that's really what this is about. Where we are in terms of this, what our basic principles are, and where we want to go between now and June 30th. That's what this is. It's not a commitment to the future, it's a commitment to planning for the future and continuing to work and getting all the information we need to, and from the community to make the right decision by July 1st. That's what this is.
I understand that, and I'm glad you mentioned those emails, because quite frankly, and I'll go on the record, I was rather upset at getting barraged with emails from people who did not live here and were not on either side of this particular issue. I did hear from folks on both sides of the issue, and I did, in fact, every time I looked at the emails, and the first thing I did was look for whether or not it was from a resident, and if it was not from a resident of Falmouth, frankly, I deleted them. We have enough to deal with here than dealing with junk mail from people elsewhere in the state. But I guess I fail to see how much that this is going to really give us that much of a buffer for anything coming on July 1. As the email notes, we're talking about several weeks, so basically we're talking about curtailed operation between May and June. Wind 1 is going to be, when we curtail the 10 meters per second curtailment for Wind 1, that is, as I understand it, it basically cuts us back to 40% of that turbine's output. And now we've also potentially cut it out for another 8 hours in a day. So now we've cut out 2/3 more, 40%. So now we're down to 20-something% of its output. And we're also going to be curtailing the output of Wind 2 as well.
Look, I just need to end this now because we have to have a decision, because I'm going to have to figure out, we are going to have to figure out what we're going to do when this article comes up at town meeting.
One more point,
Yeah.
Madam Chair, though. The articles we have on town meeting floor are advisory only. The board, at any time, we don't have to, and this is one of the things that bothers me a little bit, is the rush to work through this process right now in anticipation of a town meeting vote that is only advisory in nature anyway. If we choose, even if town meeting says, listen, we don't want you to operate the turbine for the next year, we are still the executive board of this town. We still have the authority to decide how those turbines will be operated. And at this point, like I said, my 2 cents is that I don't see the point in rushing this for the next 2 months or 3 months when we have processes in place that I think should play out.
Okay, we don't have a motion. Do we have a motion?
No, but I was going to suggest that we could be autocrats and put it on the agenda next week and just vote to keep both turbines on all the time.
Good.
Does
It's
anybody
not-
have a motion? I think
David,
we had a
heard-
motion and
No,
I
I-
seconded, and then there was some discussion. Pardon?
I'm very comfortable with it, and I read it over the weekend, and I just absolutely assumed that we were gonna discuss this evening and vote it, because it's exactly what you had dictated. But I also understand there's other concerns as well, you know. I think at some point we have to move, and,
Well, I think if we get new information as we move forward, we can adjust this. No one's bound by a vote
Absolutely.
forever.
Yes, we can. Any day of the week, any week.
so I will make a motion that we approve
The statement of principles.
the resolution / statement of principles for operation of wind energy facilities.
Including number 8.
Including the whole, yes, including number 8.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
4 and 1. I'm going to suggest it's 2 minutes to 7, that we take these other issues up tomorrow night and review the agenda.
I would continue all other items.
Continue all of them until tomorrow night. We don't adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Well, there's no move, we're just.
We have a couple of folks here.
I'm sorry, it's 2 minutes away.
I'm gonna get out there.
I'm sorry to bring you back. You're coming back anyway tomorrow night, right? Yes. Thank you very much. So, we are in recess.